through the days of fellowship. I hope I see you, all of you, survive yesterday. Many events, many meetings, and now it's a peaceful atmosphere. It's idea, the third day is panel about presentation of national culture in other countries. And our guest is Senja Požar from Slovenia. He was former fellows, and she know all of you, and you know that she organized Slovenian guest of honor in Frankfurt 2 years ago, and for me it's interesting her experience about presentation, national culture of Slovenia, but not only Slovenia, we are in Serbia, we are talking about Serbia here. This fellowship in the focus, and what is her experience for Serbian writer, authors, publishers, etc. The next guest is Mila Mihajlović. She's born in Serbia, but she lives many times, many years in Roma, and she is a very good connection between Italian culture and Serbian culture. She is a translator and a very important person for our country. And next guest is Dejan Trajkoski. You know him. He organized the fellowship in Skopje. We collaborate many years, and he's a publisher. And for me, it's interesting how he see presentation, small countries, small as a Macedonia, Serbia, between each other and in the world. That's the idea. Senja, we can start.
Let me just say for the start that we know each other very much for a long time, and of course for me it's a bit different because once upon a time Yugoslavia was my homeland, so we are very much connected. We know languages, so we don't have barriers. We know each other very much. Also cultural similarities, maybe some distinctions, but for me it was actually a very easy decision to help and to support some of the Serbian publishers and authors, to help them with the experiences I had with promoting Slovenian literature to foreign countries. It's basically the same principle because the Serbian market has all the specific characteristics of the small markets. We have this barrier of necessity of English translation and Greek translation for the additional promotion. So I have to say, just not to be long for the start, Serbian literature is really deep and it's really profound. And it has, you can find it so in this literature. I really like it. I always say when I come to Serbia, I can dance and no one will look at me, oh, she's strange. If I do that in Slovenia, she will say, are you drunk? It is like this. So that's why I like to come to Serbia, to be me, to dance, if I want. Yes. So it's the same in their literature. They dance, they still dance, and they will always dance. Whatever will happen, they will dance. And you will find, and you already met a lot of Serbian publishers here, and they're really dedicated. So, and for the end of this first part, whatever they do is brilliant. Even though it's just non-fiction, and I was surprised how much actually if you invest, and they really do invest. You can see there lots of translations into English editions and so on, and they really did a great job already regarding that. Then the world is open, and it was interesting for me to follow the interest coming from all around the world. So actually the cultural gravitation at the moment. So when I started to work as an agent for them, it was for me kind of pleasant surprise because it can also then help the Croatian, Serbian, Macedonian, others. Yeah, that was a very nice experience for the first year of this very intense cooperation. Thank you.
Great. Mila.
I would like to talk about Italian-Serbian literature reality at the beginning of that third millennium, and to avoid to be too long in speaking, I put it something on paper. I would like to say that the situation and Italian-Serbian literature, translated literature, is very bad. And according to the official data concerning literature translated from Italian in a period between the 200 and 2020, the total titles published in Serbia was about 600 by about 300 authors, Italian, and of which only 60 titles by 28 authors were classical, of classical Italian literature. Among those were only 14 titles of poetry by a total of 8 Italian authors. It's tragic. Apart from the meager inclusion of Italian classical authors on the Serbian literary market, philological and literary criteria are completely circumvented in the selection. What is also missing is a thoughtful, rational approach and a deficiency in plans of continuity of translations. In narrative, the only constant is the spontaneous and the random nature of the which most often does not correspond, represent, or reflect the best achievements of Italian literature. The same holds true in the fields of poetry and prose. One can add to this the fact that Italian literature was marginally represented in the former Yugoslavia in the period preceding 2006, when Serbia declared independence. The situation remains the same today on the Serbian literary market, where Italian translations are completely bypassed and therefore unavailable for purchase, except perhaps in some antique shops and the second-hand bookstores. The status of the Serbian literature translated into Italian is even more critical. For decades, the annual number of Serbian authors translated into Italian could be counted on the finger of one hand. There is a chronicle lack of systematic and critical selection. Constant, impulsive publication choice are mostly left to individual interests and individual needs. Almost everything is based on the enthusiasm of a few and random preferences of some publishers. The result is that both Serbs and Italians think that they know each other. But in reality, the situation is different. Literature is the best way to achieve mutual understanding because the literature preserves traditions, conveys emotion, and creates the foundation for friendship and community. Without the language, the translations, there is no dialogue. And without dialogue, we cannot know each other. It's simple. Given all this, it must be emphasized that literature is the most inexpensive and most effective means for disseminating and promoting cultural in general and national cultural in particular. In all countries of the world, literature is the closest, the most natural, and the most acceptable medium for bringing together the widest and most diverse audience. This is confirmed that the great success in Italy of Radovan Kanjevac's poetry collection, Come una mano lungo il collo del contrabbasso, published in 2022, which the next year was winner of one of the most prestigious literary Italian award, Premio Castello di Prata Sanita Liguano. The keen interest of the Italian reading public for Serbian translations is also confirmed by the bilingual Italian-Serbian anthology of 40 contemporary authors, with on it with D and K, with Nenad, and SS Nuovo Ponte dello Spirito Novi Sad Bari. Great interest was shown for Milivoje Pavlović's book Venac otrnja za Danila Kiša in its Italian translation, Una corona di spine per Danilo Kiš, published in 2022. Its second edition was realized just over half a year later, an unprecedented event in the sector of literature translated from the Serbian language in Italy. This year, the poetry book Srećna voda by Nenad Šaponja and the Vesnici i druge rime by Ivan Vergiš-Torac are expected to be translated into Italian. The Nenad book's translation is already ready for publishing. And for the first time in a history in Serbia, a translation into Serbian of Gabriele D'Annunzio's poetry is included in the collection Poetski Blagoslovi, published in Novi Sad by Severna Foundation, and now available in bookstores. In conclusion, we must acknowledge that literature in translation is an essential expression of cooperation between the nations, in addition to being a bridge for promotion of national culture abroad. It is precisely through culture that states can offer an exceptional impetus for peace and development, which are realized primarily through knowledge, mutual respect, and appreciation, all necessary elements of friendship. This is a topic of great importance when it comes to investing in strategic sectors among which culture, literature, occupies one of the primary places. Better than all other social instruments, the culture, the literature, can inspire the advancement of social values and create the conditions of friendship, unity, peace. And that, I repeat, it's the most inexpensive and the most effective means for disseminating and promoting culture in general, and in particular, the national culture. So guys, let us publish translating books.
this, brother. You're based in Italy now.
Yeah,
Run,
very much.
gather knowledge.
But I have to convince a lot of people to.
You should start to go with Mila.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As our friend Mila just said, quoting the numbers, we can see that actually there is an actual, even the word is maybe harsh, there is an actual imperialism in the literary world. Now, the word is harsh, of course, but even recently it was published, there was an article published in I think it was The Guardian, and the title was The Imperialism of the English Language. And it is the reality, of course. The bigger languages are, of course, always the most popular, etc., and the smaller are kind of down and invisible. And the fight from our side and the efforts should be 10,000 times bigger than the authors from other languages, let's say. So what I can say on the topic, it is a big topic. So I would like to try and answer to two questions. The first is why, and the second is how. I know that it's too early for philosophy, but I will be brief, I promise. I always like to talk a little bit about philosophy of language. Now, why I would like to talk about the philosophy of language? Because first, we are all here more or less experienced. We know the ways of promoting, etc., etc. And we all know that it is imperative to work on promotion of our literatures, that the literatures are bonding us. As Mila said, this is also a very inexpensive way of promoting smaller literatures. But often, you know, that can sound like overly romantic, you know, or maybe not so true, etc., 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 but it is. And it is deeply true that it is of absolute necessity to build these bridges. Now, why it is true, as let's say Ludwig Wittgenstein, the famous philosopher from the first half of the previous century, said, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. So this is a very basic sentence, but it opened a big field in the philosophy, and it based the philosophy of language. What is the meaning behind it? Why the limits of my language are the limits of my world? So if we transfer this in literature, we can see that, for example, he gives this very simple but effective example with the triangle. You know, if you see a triangle, for you it can mean it is a triangle, but for Senja it can mean that it is a shape in form of a triangle. For Mila, it can mean that it is a painting of a mountain, etc., etc., etc. So, the more you read, the more you can see the shapes that differentiate, for example. So that is one of the strengths of reading the literatures also from the other languages, from other cultures, etc., etc. What is very rarely also pointed out, it's not only about, let's say it in a very simplified way. Even I read, I don't know, book from Italian writer. It's not about the way he describes Italy or the food or the people, etc. But it is also, and for me, I believe for many of you, it is also important to see what Senja said. If they are dancing, within themselves, how they're dancing, etc., etc. I will give you an example in Serbian literature. When you read Vladimir Pištov, for example, or Svetislav Basa, you will see a way of writing that exceeds the normal viewing of writing. They are the absolute masters of the sentence, of the word, of the topic, of everything, absolutely. So, what I want to say is, and to conclude this first part of my speaking, is it's not that people from the smaller countries and lesser used languages are less smart or less beautiful than the English or the Germans or bigger countries. You know, there is the same amount of quality in all countries.
Or even more.
Sometimes maybe even more. Yes, of course, when you see the percentages. Yes, of course. But we need, and it is imperative, to promote that. Now, we come to the second leg of this, and I will speak now how. So what am I doing as an individual? 13 years ago, no, let's say 15 years ago, it was, I think, 2011, I organized the promotion of a book of David al-Bahari in Skopje. And that was probably the only foreign writer of importance that visited Skopje that year. So we're talking about 2011. So that means that we were the darkest hole in the region in that regard. There was no exchanging of cultures, etc., etc., etc. After the fall of Yugoslavia, everything was simply not working. And that was the literary event of the year. So I saw that there is a need, absolutely. The room was packed in Youth Cultural Center. That's a big door. So 2 years after that, I established the first international prose festival in my country. We have Struga Poetry Evenings, that's a world festival, but it is dedicated exclusively to poets. So I started with the literary festival. Then the next year I started organizing the fellowship program. Now I focused the festival on the writers from the Balkan area and the fellowship for the publishers mainly from Europe. So the point was to wire the writers from Balkan and the non-Balkan publishers. So that's kind of, in a way, a unique concept because the majority, or maybe all of the fellowship programs are dedicated exclusively to publishers, whilst in my land a festival and a fellowship are being done at the same time. So the fellows can also hear the writers from the Balkan. And also, of course, I have my publishing house. So those are the, let's say, three big ones. Publishing house, fellowship program, and a literary festival as a way of promoting the smaller literatures. But of course, that's only a drop of water in the sea. And the most important thing is that the states to help the bigger promotion of national literatures, which I'm sure Senja can say more about it because they were a guest of honor. Not only in Frankfurt, but in Bologna next year. You overdid it, Senja. Thank you.
It's absolutely necessary to build a bridge, you tell, and thank you for all, because
ask you a minute of your attention because I think it might be the best time and the best moment to present you something on behalf of my publishing house and to contribute to the topic that we have just discussed. Look, you all know that I represent a children publisher from Moscow, which mostly specializes in children and young adult literature, but nevertheless, in cooperation and collaboration with some Russian business entities, we do some adult non-fiction, academic works, business literature, stuff like this. We mostly translate from English, from big names like Stanford University Press, Cambridge, Oxford, etc. But recently, we have completed really tremendous work that we are really proud of as a publishing house, because we all, I mean our editorial team, my publisher, editors, we have made a huge piece of work. And today I would like to present, on behalf of my publishing house, on behalf of Apricot Books, this title to you and to your cultural center. But for all of you, let me just say a couple of words about this title. This is a Russian translation of one Serbian academician, historian, Mila a well-known work, brilliant piece of Serbian history from the New Age up to the beginning of 1990s. So this is the Russian translation of Serbian author, Serbian academician, historian, academic scholar. So the Russian edition is really unique because in the original, like Serbian one, there were no photos, archives, stuff like this. But we have enriched the Russian editions with a lot of, as I said, photos, archive documents, other stuff. We have worked really a lot with Serbian museums, photo banks, photo galleries. We've invested a lot, and in collaboration with many people from the Serbian culture, like landscape or ecosystem, we have managed to do this. So it's not like for general sale. You can buy the e-book edition or audiobook edition in Russia, but this one is not like for B2C. It's mostly like a very limited one. So on behalf of my publishing house, let me present this one to you, please. So, I think that Serbian colleagues, you know about Milorad Knečić, so he's really like a well-known Serbian academician, historian, professor, academic, yeah.
Yes.
That's something that we're really proud of. So,
Great book.
Great value.
That's not about children literature, about young adult, but something really like prominent and so different. That
Have you any support from Serbia?
no, it was, as I said, like a project that has been backed and supported by one of the Russian business entities. But as I said, we worked really a lot with the Serbian Ministry of Culture, with other Serbian like museums, cultural institutions in Belgrade, in other cities and towns of your country. So that's something. Actually, we did it like, I would say, a year and a half or maybe 2 years. I mean, like the whole editorial team, and there were like at least 5 translators from Serbian into Russian who have been like contributing to this work.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know. Whether you wanna like leave this title in your like personal library or collection, or you might, I don't know, like pass it to your cultural foundation. So it's up to you. But again, thanks a lot for inviting, and thanks a lot that this like our small contribution to this plan.
Thank you. Question, but great example. Mila, can we see this book in Italian maybe in the future?
Why not? That is very important.
It's
And
essential.
maybe just like
essential.
open little
Essential
secret.
historical.
Yeah, we are going to do this edition in Serbian. I mean, this profound one. Yeah, maybe like not next, maybe like 2027 or something. We will have the Serbian edition of this book.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Is there a question?
Not really a question, but I would like to make a point and maybe we can talk about it. You know, when you say that it's easy to translate, I mean, of course it's easy to translate and everything, but when you talk about the English market, you know, they pull a lot of muscle around with a lot of money around. So the thing is that it's easier to find English translated books in the market for various reasons. First of all, English is an easy language now. It's easy to translate from English to any other language. And secondly, the exposure English book has in the global market is not something everybody has a privilege to promote their work. So we say that the work should be exchanged, but a lot of hindrances come in between. It might be easy to translate from Serbian to, say, an Italian or a German because you might find people, but is it easy to translate from Serbian to, say, Tamil or Malayalam? And we are not talking about small numbers. We're talking about 60 million people who speak that particular language. So sometimes great work has a lot of barriers to entry in different markets, and something what you guys are doing, I mean, is a great foundation for your literary work to progress into different parts of the market.
So, thank you. Any comment?
Well, I can comment. Yeah, I was recently thinking a lot about the milestones of my career because it really changed tremendously. I was a bit courage 1 year ago. So to resume, I'm really happy that I experienced the classical publishing 30 years ago because the world has changed tremendously last year especially. And I'm also happy that at the end of my career, still needs to do a decade so, I'm facing the metamorphosis. So next week, I never thought that I would deal with something like that. I'm starting a new position at the biggest Slovenian research center as Chief Operating Officer for the AI under auspices of UNESCO. So I never thought that I would be part of something like that. I really didn't. I didn't expect something. There were a lot of milestones, and especially first, I was happy to be able to experience all kinds of positioning in publishing. So I was on editorial side, and I was on selling side, and I was on promotion side, and I was on PR side. So, and then COVID came, and I think that I learned a lot of COVID time. We were horrified because there was guest of honor in Frankfurt in front of us, and all the book fairs were cancelled, and that was just crazy. But what I found out was something maybe is dealing with culture, maybe is dealing with technological problems, maybe is dealing with bridge translations, but it is encouraging me, and it had the consequences to make some decisions about career later. I found out that small markets are most open markets for exchanging rights.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about that, really. Because you have to know that my bosses made me a huge plan, and I worked for 10 years or 16 hours per day. I could never achieve, although I sold 700 titles. So I never evaluated my results of my work through did I sell it to English-speaking countries or Azerbaijan? Every agreement was really, really precious for me because behind that agreement was another person who really likes Slovenian literature. So I made beautiful friendships thinking this way all around the world, really. And it happened that it opened another door. So, for example, when I started to go to Istanbul, I started to sell rights also to Azerbaijan. When I sold rights to Azerbaijan, I sold to Kazakhstan. So it is just the way how you see the world, how you think about the world. If you are arrogant on the English territory, then please don't even go to have meeting with small market literature, because it is just arrogant. It is unspeakably rude. And what happened when I decided to leave the biggest publishing house? Everyone said, "Oh, that's you are very brave." I was brave. I'm still very brave. I have to be, because it's completely different world, and it's the matter of surviving also. Yes, but I found out that there are so many publishers, not just on the Balkan region, but all around the world. Small-sized publishers, middle-sized publishers, even big-sized publishers who really don't have experienced foreign rights managers, who doesn't know how to do the job properly. Sorry to tell this, but you have to be this kind of the person. You have to love the world. You have to love the people. You have to love the cultures. You have to be open. Otherwise, better not to do the job. So, what I want to say that during the last year, I've got so many clients, not just from the old Balkan regions, but also from Philippines, also from Canada, also from China, and I was thinking, yes, okay. Then it happened that we again reorganized the agency, and I decided to run on my own, because again, you really need to know the environment to set the realistic goals, and usually the plan and the income doesn't match the expectancy that yes, bosses have, because they don't have really a clue how it goes with the grants and so on. And if you are working in promotion of the small book markets, you are unfortunately or fortunately very dependent on the grants. That's true, because small publishers don't have enough budget to translate. Even now, I need to say again, what Serbian publishers are doing is fantastic. You can see there a lot of English translations. Slovenia, after 2 guest of honors in Frankfurt and Bologna, we don't have so many English translations. So it was actually very easy for me to be in charge as an agent. I know the country. I love the country. I love the people. I have friends. They already have complete English translation, which is just luxury for agent, because I just send the whole book and they can imagine and they can read and so on. And I can also give my personal recommendation, because I know them. I know the feeling. I know the dancing stuff. So yeah. And now I am on this new role, thinking about this kind of responsibility, a big responsibility, because I will take over, be in charge in AI Journal, which is international journal about AI. And those AI projects are not just about AI learning, but they are considering all kinds of sciences to make the world better. So it's actually quite a big responsibility to learn from the newest trends. It's luxury that I can learn to be in trend still, and to bring into this AI learning all the best practice and knowledge I've had in 40 years in publishing. So I'm already using AI very much, but I believe that it's a completely different thing if you use it with knowledge, when you put editor experience. And so we will do, and I hope that in the future we will start with completely new cooperations on the Balkan region, the first time, and so on and so on, and to make it properly, not to kind of inflate the publishing. I don't want to be part of inflating the quality. I hope that I will be able to participate, maybe just to speed up and to make bigger volume or whatever. So if I'm back to American market. When I was speaking to the potential partners in USA and so on, they always think big because they're a huge country, of course. So if you want to go big to America, you then shouldn't be limited just to one book. This book, what Igor just showed us, this is something, for example, they might be interested and so on. But then you again in the budget also. I hope that all this, if I resume activities in publishing, an agency, and representing small markets all around the world, and AI will open new doors in the future. And we'll see. Wish me luck.
Thank you for your small secret of being master of publishing.
I have to say something. See, it's with every one of us as a publisher, as a curator of content. We are very romantic about the world we live in. We are very passionate about the world we put on the paper. But the thing is that the world we live in right now is a world of instant gratification, very short attention of span, and we have to start to look beyond to get more readers, and for that Philip was talking about the other day for making those smaller videos, and you have translated a lot of work in English, but that's not the end. I mean, that's the beginning of something. So all this work that has already been translated in English, and I've been talking about this from last 2 days, needs to go on some sort of POD platform. It has to be globally available. It has, if somebody goes out and research about a Serbian book and they find it in English, they can buy it immediately. So this is not the end, this is the beginning. And people, when they talk about publishing, when they talk about book publishing especially, or a book publisher, they only think about a publisher as someone who will find a manuscript and get it printed in a form of a book. But that is where we go completely wrong. As a publisher, we are the curator of content. And printed book is just one medium, one medium that is available. That content has to flow into different medias which is available now and would be available in the future. So if it's an e-book, if it's a short story platform, if it's an audio book or whatever that might be coming in the future, we have to be there. That is our duty and responsibility. The word should be out there for anyone who's looking for it and receive it immediately.
Thank you. Thank you. Frederick?
I was about to say the same as Senja did before she started to talk about how difficult it is being from a smaller country with a language that is not so widely spread, and what also Dejan said. That's what I had the idea, to give that over to let you know about it. Of course, I'm from Germany. It's a big language, and we are lucky to have other countries in Europe that are also German language countries. But that doesn't mean that we have an international advance. I think what's the key to all of this is that we shouldn't be so dependent on the English language publishers. There are all other countries struggle with the same problem. When I think about before COVID, we had in the children's publishing house I worked for, we had about 400 language years every year. Now, 5 years later, it might be 30. It has completely changed. On the other side, we have AI and we have technologies that make the content more available, not even with translations, but also with other ways to transfer the content and make it attractive. And I think key to make our authors and our brands grow internationally is have good partners in other countries and to work with continuously. And not just meet at one fair and say okay, we need a unicorn story, love the illustrations, let's do it. When I think about my deals with American publishers, we had a great success by coincidence with one young adult title, yes, nice, no other works were relevant. And then we had a partner who was very convinced about one series we had, and it became such a big success, and it opened up doors in every other countries from Nepal to wherever. Yes, but that's not the key of our business. When I look at the bigger pictures, it's better to have strong partnerships with publishers in other markets that have the same difficulties as we do. So it's really key to be in communication with partners in other countries, and not in your publishing house, also not only buy from the English language publishing house. It's always the easy way, and we always like, oh my god, we have this challenge, everyone to do it, blah blah blah, but we also do the same and translate from English. So maybe it's an important step to not only consider the easy translations for our publishing houses as well.
Thank you. Any ideas? If you haven't, we will start with the next part.